All right, welcome back into Sports Drive, everybody. Once again, as we prepare for the big game of the night, Amarillo High and Tascosa, both the boys and the girls going at it tonight over at, is the game at Amarillo High or Tascosa? The game's at Amarillo High tonight, so it's going to be a fun atmosphere, a fun environment, and the call is going to be on TPSN, so you can tune into TPSN to watch and listen to the game live. Joining us now is the man who's going to be on the call tonight, Mike Roden. Mike, it should be a fun one tonight, and I was talking with Lance about it, and I want to get your thoughts on this real quick too. I think the girls' game could actually be really interesting, but I think it might come down to, to not to put too much pressure on them, but those star players for Tascosa, Deja Ogis and Avery Carter, and how they perform in this one.
I agree that the backcourt for the Lady Rebels is going to be really important tonight. They had a little hiccup against Plainview coming off that Tatum Tough tournament victory over Canyon, and kind of have righted the ship, though, since then. Bounced back from that setback with huge wins over Caprock and Paladuro girls. So that kind of sets the stage for, a big showdown tonight. Tascosa was ranked in the top 25 earlier in the season. Yeah. They have only lost just a handful of games all season.
Right.
So they have talent. They have played pretty well. But, when you talk about the Lady Sandys, you're talking about the third-ranked team in the state. And I think that's a very legitimate ranking. And it's a veteran team. It's a veteran program that is used to winning. So I think the Lady Rebels, I think they'll give them a good game. Can they beat Amarillo High? Don't know. We'll find out. But, I think maybe the experience and basically just the experience edge, would definitely go to Amarillo High.
Why do you think it is that they haven't really gotten the respect in those rankings, Tascosa? Do you think it's just their non-district schedule, the new coach? Why do you think they haven't really, despite having a really good record, shown up in those those 5A rankings?
Well, they did.
Right, a few.
They were ranked early on, but the loss to Plainview, came out of nowhere. Yeah. Honestly, they I think got up to all the way to 14th or 12th, one of those two.
Right. I think it was a month ago now that they were ranked 12th, but since then,
and then, as I said, beat Canyon, which is a top 5 team in Class 4A, and really can compete in any class pretty much. So it was a huge win for Tascosa. I just think they had even though it was the district opener, had a pretty good letdown against Plainview. And Plainview's a dangerous team in their own right in that they're very scrappy, and they have a lot of tradition in their program as well, and are well coached. And so, I think just maybe the Lady Rebels were kind of taking that one for granted a little bit. I saw that game, and they just did not look at all like the same team that they were in that Canyon tournament. Yeah. They just had a miserable night shooting the ball. And again, not to take anything away from Plainview, because I think they created some of that, but Tascosa turned it over a lot in that ball game and just did not have a good game at all. But as I said, I think they've turned that around, and I think they're legit. You look at their backcourt. It is a veteran backcourt, senior leadership with Deja Ogis and Anaya Brackens, Dixon back there in the back, Zamaya Dixon. Yeah. Those are some players that have been around the block a few times as far as being on varsity. They've been in the lineup for Tascosa for a while now, so that will help them for sure. But Amarillo High is just so solid at every position, and I think that they'll eventually, probably, in my opinion, wear Tascosa down and be able to take the win. But obviously Avery Carter's going to have a big game for Tascosa, and she is a great shot blocker, great rebounder, and her scoring is coming along. But Amarillo High has some players that can take a star out of their game, and that's when others are going to have to step up for Tascosa.
Well, and we talked about that loss to Plainview. Certainly, it was a big one for Tascosa. But even before then, they weren't really showing up in those rankings. So besides 12th, but you're talking about again maybe 3, almost 4 weeks between those games. Do you think there was a reason before that as why they weren't getting the respect? And even it's just one loss. You look at how good their record is. You'd think they would deserve a spot somewhere in the top 25.
Yeah. Well, it took a while. Tascosa has not been a ranked program in a while, a ranked team, and it's been a while since they've made a deep run into the playoffs. So. I think it just is a lot of that. name recognition,
Right.
tradition, all of those things I think factor into the rankings as well.
And tonight could be a big chance
Oh, boy.
to prove it. Even
Absolutely.
if you don't beat Amarillo High, if you play them close, that still, I think, earns them a lot of respect.
Absolutely, I agree. I think it would too. So,
Yeah.
it's a rivalry game. You never know what to expect. Quite what to expect with a rivalry. It could go, some people say, throw the records out. And that's true, I think, to a certain extent. It's going to be loud. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be intense. So we'll see.
And, the way I kind of looked at it was, Avery Carter is going to have to dominate the paint, especially defensively, because Amarillo High likes to, go inside and spread their shooters out, have 4 players around the perimeter and, try to, make you collapse, and then they'll kick it out to Lacey Rice or Mackenzie Smith and pick you apart from 3. So Avery Carter being able to really do the job solo in the paint for all intents and purposes is going to be, I think, big defensively for Amarillo High. And then you look at Deja Ogis, what she's going to have to do in terms of Amarillo High is likely going to press them a lot during this game. Breaking the press offensively is going to be a big one. So I think if those two things happen and Avery Carter can have, her best offensive night of the season, I know it's a tough challenge against Amarillo High's defense, but if all of those things come together, I think that's kind of the formula if you're looking for how Tascosa can compete and potentially win this game.
I would agree. It will be very crucial for Tascosa to take care of the basketball against that defensive pressure of Amarillo High. They're going to have to be so careful. You're going to commit some turnovers. Lady Sandys are one of the best defensive teams in the state, probably.
Yeah.
But I think that's where games like Tascosa played Canyon, which is another team that is maybe just as good or almost as good as Amarillo High defensively, and so that and Tascosa seemed to handle the pressure that day well enough. You saw that most of that game as well, and Tascosa did have some turnovers, but they created a lot of turnovers too. And that's another thing is that I think if Tascosa can maybe force the Lady Sandys' hand a little bit and create some turnovers there that they can turn into baskets. But, again, it'll be interesting to see how they defend Avery Carter. But they've got the ability and the talent to do that. And I think Trissa Dowd will be a key player for Tascosa. She lends some size inside as they go high-low for Tascosa. And I think she could be a factor in this if she doesn't get into foul trouble.
And she has really good touch around the basket as well.
Yeah.
She can play in the post and make that difficult on the Sandys, and that might be how you have to attack. And as long as you can keep the Sandys a little like cool from 3, just not make sure they just Lacey Rice or especially if you let Lacey Rice get into a rhythm, that could be a big.
You're exactly
point.
right, and she was in a great rhythm against Paladuro the other night.
She's been in a few
lately,
games recently.
As you said, and that's something that the Lady Sandys didn't really do well early on this year was their perimeter shooting. And I talked with Coach Jeff Williams about that. And he said, we need to work on that. We need to get better at our shots from outside. And as you said, lately they have been.
Yeah. So we'll see if Lacey Rice stays hot in this one, with the atmosphere being the way it's going to be, because it's going to be pretty intense, and we know how that can affect things on the court. You can get wrapped up in it pretty easily, and it can take you out of your game sometimes. So we'll see how that affects really both teams in this one. But you're going to be on the call tonight, Mike. Once again, TPSNsports.com. People can check it out. Is it you solo or are you with someone else?
Solo tonight, and Brady will be manning the video camera for us. So and Amarillo High, we might just say they do normally put their games on YouTube. However, it's just the dry feed with no broadcasters. So we like our vantage point and having the broadcast of the game. So I think the fans will tune in. They'll enjoy it.
And then once again this Friday too, I do want to mention the broadcast you have coming up there too. You have 2 on Friday, I believe?
We do. We have a couple of games. We dip down into 4-4A as well on Friday, as Pampa teams will be traveling to Randall. And so we'll have the doubleheader audio feed of those games on TPSNsports.com in our app, and then also Caprock at Paladuro on Friday in a doubleheader. So district play continues.
All right, Mike, thanks so much. We appreciate it. Tune in tonight to see Mike's call of the game. We'll be right back to wrap things up on Sports Drive after the break.